right, from an R. Kelly video to Ideas Work and Beyond, welcome again. We have an exciting show tonight. It's a bit of a quilt, if you will, with different patches. The first patch that we're going to talk about is Bethel politics. Although really Bethel politics could be an entire blanket unto himself, a rather tattered, torn blanket, don't you think?
Yeah,
I think so too.
Nice.
I think it could. Thank you. Just came to me. But basically what's going on in Bethel is that the Republican Party is having a bit of a dysfunctional family feud. And it's open on the front page of the papers, and they will all have a big jamboree on September 15th, and they will vote. They will vote to either keep the current First Selectman, Bob Burke, in office and retain his approach to governing and his personality, or they'll go with a new candidate who has been on this show as well. It will all be decided on September 15th. However, I've come to learn that if Bob Burke does not prevail in that Republican primary, that he may continue to run on the Bethel, what's it called, Bethel First?
Pro-Bethel.
Pro-Bethel Party. So, to be continued, but it is exciting. I drove through Bethel this morning. There's lawn signs everywhere, and if nothing else, it's democracy in action. And we have that picture of Norman Rockwell, the voter, right, David? The voter. And when it all comes down to it, it's not going to be the Danbury News-Times that decides, even though they had a bit of a self-serving article in their paper that said that Bob Burke should step down. He ain't going to step down. He's going to let the voters decide, as depicted in this picture by Norman Rockwell. Just to get Bethel out of the way at first, we had a gentleman by the name of Nick Ellis. I understand he's a big yuckity-yuck in the police commission. I guess he's the president of the police commission?
Yeah, police commissioner.
And he had agreed to appear on this show. And Al Robinson, the intrepid producer, co-host, and man about town, made sure that he checked with his lawyer to make sure that he could appear on the show. And in the final hour, he backed down. So we're not real fond of Nick Ellis at this point. I'm sure he had his situations, but he didn't appear on the show. Hopefully he'll come in later because he seems to have a lot on his mind.
He's got a lot to say.
A lot to say. We're waiting to hear that. But you do have some tape of Mr. Burke, who is exercising his civil right to a trial. And I guess we can roll this tape, although, you know, I think it's a little boring, but you seem pretty excited.
Hey, a lot of people were interested in this. It's got a lot of coverage. And on Tuesday, Mr. Burke made an appearance in front of Danbury Superior Court, and where he pleaded not guilty to the charges, and his case is going to be continued to September 30th. So a lot of people were interested in this. So without further ado, here is the footage from the Danbury Superior Court, and First Selectman Burke takes the stand.
Good morning, Your Honor. Tom Fisher from Mr. Burke.
Before we do that, we can do plenty finger tricks.
Is asking the court to issue a protective order so the defendant have no contact in person, by mail, by telephone with the victim or her daughter, including not driving by the victim's home. I have spoken to counsel on that. I think we have an agreement in terms of not driving by the victim's daughter's home. And she lives on Worcester Street, so as long as the defendant does not go on Worcester Street from Deerhill Avenue, on Main Street, at the end area.
Bob Burke and his court case lined up. I could reenact it. This is the judge's desk. Bob Burke walked in and said, I didn't know I did anything wrong. And the prosecutor said, oh, yes, you did. You are a rotten scoundrel. And Bob Burke says, no, I'm not. I'm really a great guy. I'm a family man. I've been, you know, maligned by this. Oh, no, you're not. You're a real rascal. Okay, well, let's all get together in 30 days and sort this out. Okay, goodbye. That's what the tape said, and we're still back at square one, and the Republicans will have to decide on September 15th who they want representing their town. It's not going to be Danbury News-Times. It's going to be registered Republicans. And for those of you who aren't registered, either Republican, you feel very independent, unfortunately your voice won't be heard. You have to be a registered Republican to vote in this primary. Now, we're ready to go. Apparently they want more than my hand reenactment, so let's go to the videotape.
Good morning, Your Honor. Tom Fisher from Mr. Burke.
Matter down for the first time today, Your Honor, the state under Connecticut General Statute 54-1K is asking the court to issue a protective order so the defendant have no contact in person, by mail, by telephone with the victim or her daughter, including not driving by the victim's home. I have spoken to counsel on that. I think we have an agreement in terms of not driving by the victim's daughter's home. And she lives on Worcester Street, so as long as the defendant does not go on Worcester Street from Deer Hill Avenue, on Main Street, at the end area.
That's correct, Your Honor. We'll cooperate and agree with the restraining order decided by Mr. Stitt.
What are we going to do? Continue this one?
I'm asking for September 30th.
That's
Court,
right.
please.
That's right.
And we'll enter an objection period.
Ladies and gentlemen, noted for the record, continuing case is September 30th. I'm also going to enter a protective order at this time, sir. As to the victim of this matter, at the end of the order, I understand the victim is out of state. State authorities will certify protective order as well. On the street side. But as to her daughter who lives locally, I'm going to need this protective order to come into any contact with him, refrain from any contact with him. In particular, as indicated by the state's attorney, you're not to be seen on that street in which your daughter resides. Right? Any violation of that is subject to a violation of protective order. It's an additional crime as a penalty of up to 5 years of imprisonment and $5,000 fine. Understand those conditions, sir? Absolutely. It also is a condition of your release on bail, sir. So if you do violate that, the court can reconsider bail and determine whether it wants to impose a higher bail. You understand that as well? Yes, sir. Very well. I'll continue the case to September 30th. We'll see what anything you want to add, Mr. Beach?
No, thank you.
And just with the Your Honor mentioned the street, it's on Worcester Street, which is rather long, but the area that we're talking about is Deer Hill Avenue.
All right, very well.
Yes, sir.
No, this will be a, no, it's not a recommendation. No, no, no,
Thank you, Your Honor.
all right, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, there you have it. I kind of think my finger puppetry was more animated, but that's essentially it. And it's been brought to my attention by way of an email that the voters of Bethel know that unregistered voters can register as Republicans to vote in the primary. So again, according to this person, let the voters of Bethel know that unregistered voters can register as Republicans to vote in the primary. So you will have your voice heard, and you'll be a part of sorting this all out. And Bethel, we wish you all the luck in the world, and exercise your right in a democracy to vote. Switching gears, last night our president came and gave a speech to the joint sessions of Congress, and he talked about health care and what he plans to do with health care. I found a lot of the speech to be a little bit hard to follow. The part that really stuck out to me was the section in the speech where he said, "We've estimated that the cost of this plan can be paid for by finding savings within the existing health care system, a system that is currently full of waste and abuse. Right now, too much of the hard-earned savings and tax dollars we spend on health care don't make us any healthier." And he specifically talked about, and this is also true when it comes to Medicaid and Medicare. So just for those of you scoring at home, I think if I've got this right, he's saying big government has so much waste and abuse within the two big government health care programs that the savings that we're going to realize through getting rid of, I would assume, the waste and abuse, we can now use for yet an even larger government health care program. But it seems to beg the question, if you can't do a good job on Medicare and Medicaid and there's fraud and waste and abuse, what makes you think that you're going to do a better job as you expand it? I think the commentator I watched last night said it best when it says, we'll have a health care program that will have the compassion of the IRS, the efficiency of the United States Postal Service, and the execution that we saw with FEMA in the response to the Katrina hurricane tragedy in New Orleans. The idea of having the people that run the Department of Motor Vehicles run your health care program, and the idea that this is somehow going to save money and not add to the deficit is frankly laughable. And I think that that members and citizens of the United States have seen this, and on its face can see that it just doesn't add up, and it's a really, really, really bad idea. So this democracy that we have has survived, what, 230, 240 years? I'm sure we'll continue to survive, but I really am against this one-payer socialized health care program. That said,
Feel better now?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I mean, it's great having a TV show because you can get all this stuff off your, off your chest. We are delighted to have joining us, of course, Al Robinson, who was kind enough to go down there and shoot that great video of Bob Burke and his cookies. Good. And then we also have Chris Murray, Mike Taylor, and Keith Miller. And I appreciate you coming in and joining us. And Keith, why don't you tell us a little bit about the group that you have and what you've been talking about vis-a-vis the proposal for health care in the United States?
Well, I think your observations on the President's presentation last night are echoed by many people who listened to it. It was, I think, motivational. It was inspirational. It had wonderful flourishes, but it didn't get down to how do you pay for this. And it didn't explain if there's $600 billion of waste in the system now, how did it get there and why hasn't it been tackled before? When I met with Jim Himes several weeks ago in Torrington, and talked to him about how could you afford this, given all the budget deficits, etc. He said the $10 trillion of deficit that the Obama administration is racking up is not the problem. The problem is the $40 trillion of unfunded Medicare costs. So if they could save $600 billion, they have $39 trillion to go.
Wow.
It's immense. So I think a lot of work needs to be done. Chris has done a lot of work pulling together people who have been looking at this, trying to understand, trying to wrap their minds around, how could you improve the delivery of health care in this country? And I think the one observation that everybody has is pretty much, we like our health care. We like our insurance. It's not that bad. We have friends, or in your case, relatives from Canada, wives. Yeah. And what you hear from these people is not encouraging with respect to socialized medicine. Yeah.
Let me just, Chris, tell us a little bit about your group. I know I've been on some of these email trees. Okay. And by the way, the phone number here is 792-4101. 792-4101. They'll put that up. And how they can get in touch with you and your organization as well. But if you'd like to ask a question, please feel free to call in.
Well, I think it's called citizenthatcare.org. That's our website. And I think it kind of it's an evolution of the Tea Party group, Tea Party movement, which kind of evolved into what I'll call the town hall movement this summer. And now we're really trying to drill down and get answers. We're not just in opposition to the President's plan, which there's plenty of reasons to be in opposition to it, but we're trying to get to solutions as well. And there are 15 to 20 folks, all walks of life, incredibly smart people. I'm humbled to be in the room with these people. Highly motivated and good writers. So we've done a couple things. Number one, we're as you know, there's the newspaper in Ridgefield called the Ridgefield Review.
Yeah, I think we have a copy of that if we can put that up.
And the next issue is going to be completely about the health care issue. And we've also put together what I'll call a kind of a white paper. It was 10 pages of questions for Congressman Himes. But basically, it was facts and figures on all aspects of all aspects of the legislation. The range of questions asked, from financial to constitutional to the impact on our healthcare delivery systems, the kind of what I call the credibility gap of the President himself with respect to the legislation and the kind of mendacious way in which he's sought to get it through. without really people having a chance to read it. You know, it's interesting. When the legislation finally was published, and people had a chance to kind of drill down, as I said, it didn't take long to figure out that the president, it's hard to say this word now because it's the L word, you can't say it anymore, but the president was untruthful, shall we say, or less than truthful with respect to his claim that you can keep your private health insurance. The very first page of the legislation, I'm referring to H.R. 3200, contradicts the president. And if people like us who read the document and evaluated the, shall we say, the specific provisions, determined that it not only motivates employers to opt their employees into the public plan, but it renders private health insurance companies really unable to compete against the government controls. So smart people recognize this, and the president's poll numbers, once the legislation was introduced, declined precipitously. 10 days from July 20th to July 28th, his poll numbers went from 62% to 50% and 54%. Now they're below 50%.
Okay,
He only has himself to blame.
Okay, let me frame the question, because it seems to me there's a flip side to this. Keith, you say, hey, you know, people are happy with their insurance. They ain't broke, don't fix it. You say what they're proposing is this vast, expanse of government. I think on the other side, and you mentioned the grassroots Tea Party thing. The other side of the coin, and we want to get your input on this, is it isn't grassroots, it's AstroTurf. What do you mean people are happy with their health care? We have people like the president cited in his speech talking about a man from Illinois that was taking chemotherapy, but he didn't report a gallstone, and so they delayed the treatment and he eventually died. There was someone in Texas who needed to have surgery, but she forgot to declare a case of acne, and by the time she was reinstated, her breast cancer had more than doubled the size. I mean, these are horror stories, but this is the President of the United States, citing these in speech to Congress. So which is it? Is it we're in dire straits and the only thing left is for government to come in and save the day? Or is everything really fine and this is just some big power grab? Al, your thoughts?
Well, I'd just like to question you guys on a few things. You stated that the public reaction to the speech. Now, I have a CNN poll that was conducted right after the speech here. And according to the poll here, 67% of the people support President Obama's health care reform proposals that was outlined in his address. Also, it said 2 out of 3 Americans who watched the president's health care reform speech last night favored his health care plans, a 14-point gain.
I'll take that.
There are other polls.
No, I'll take that.
I'll cite other polls also, because there's a lot of polls that were done during August that show consistently the support for a public option, and I can cite those polls as well.
I can cite contrary polls.
Well, I can cite many polls. I mean,
okay, well, we can actually talk about this poll.
Well, polls are polls,
we
but
can
a lot of people.
Chris Murray, you went to the University of Chicago?
Mike Taylor.
I'm sorry, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, I went to the University.
You went to, so you're a very smart guy.
I wouldn't say that.
We'll let you respond to this. Go
So, you're saying that. According to the polls here that were conducted after the speech, it says that the majority of people approved of President Obama's address. So what would you say to that?
Mike?
Well, why don't we have a national referendum? If
No, I just want to have them answer the question.
About,
I just want somebody to answer the question.
That's a real poll, though. Let's have a national referendum on the subject. Give people actually the opportunity to vote on it.
The problem with that CNN poll is if you look at the particulars of it, you look at the breakdown, and most sophisticated polls, public polls, do this kind of thing, is that they ask people to identify themselves according to party. And you probably already know my answer here. 45% of the sample in that poll said they were Democrats. 18% said they were Republicans. That's very heavily skewed from what the current breakdown is. I think it's 38-38 or something like that.
You have independents in there as well, right?
So now you've got a skewed poll.
Right.
Okay, now, granted, they're doing an overnight poll, so I used to work for J.D. Power and Associates, so I know a little bit about polling.
Right.
So that is a little bit biased, okay? But I think Chris is right.
You have independents in that poll as well.
Right, you have independents in that poll as well, but you already have a misrepresentation. You have twice as many Democrats as you do Republicans, so you're going to have quite a bit of difference in whether people support the president's position or not, based on the party. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm highly suspicious of the CNN poll.
So you're saying there's not a whole wide range of support towards the president's address last night?
I think
do you have any other stats?
I wouldn't know. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, some poll data.
Right.
From his speech from
I don't
last
know.
night.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well,
if you got something more
this is
recent.
Rasmussen today, so I imagine it's reflective of some of the thinking last night.
I wouldn't say that would be from
Well,
his
okay,
speech.
I mean, I can't. Who knows? I mean,
Okay.
Well, what is
Rasmussen
no, go ahead. What did they say?
53% oppose, 44% in favor, 41%
what?
strongly oppose, 27% strongly in favor.
Of
I
what,
think that's
though? But of what?
of Obamacare.
The
I think
entire
that-
plan, or what portion of it? I mean, because there's a lot of different portions to this thing. You have the public option. You have eliminating people who have pre-existing conditions from insurance companies, which I think everybody would support. I don't think anybody would say if you have a pre-existing condition that an insurance company should drop you. I think that's pretty important to address.
Well,
what portion of the Obama? Do you hate the entire? The poll say the entire thing. What specifically?
Can you
in that
tell
poll
me,
was it answering?
Al?
What was the question?
Hold on. Let's just respond to that
you know,
question.
Beyond what I've just said, I didn't go into detail with respect to each provision of the.
Well, I'm just asking in terms of the poll you're addressing here. What question did the?
It was as I read it as I read it, or it was written. Okay, strongly in favor versus strongly not in favor.
There is no president. There is no
They didn't
president.
break it down by those.
Because usually when I
Al,
read polls, you have different questions and you
I
have
know, I
an
understand.
answer to it, and so I'm just looking for.
You know,
Because I'll look it up.
The fact of the matter is there is no Obama plan. There isn't a single written document that President Obama has that he can refer to as saying, here on page 16 we address single-payer issue. Here on page 25 we address non-payment to illegal aliens. There is no Obama plan. There are 5 current bills in the Congress. H.R. 3200 happens to be the most publicized one. So when Obama last night was talking about my plan and this plan and the particulars here, there is nothing written down. And this is obviously a broad political strategy to get buy-in to these ideas. Because who doesn't want to cover people who need health insurance? Who doesn't want to see someone get their bill paid when they have cancer or diabetes or something like that? We all want that. The question is, how is that going to be paid for? And will it bankrupt the country?
Well, I think it was said several times. I think it was even echoed today that, in fact, Joe Wilson had his outburst based upon, he actually said the president lied in front of Congress. Which is
and he has a reason for saying that.
Well, it's a little obscene to do it in
Yes,
Congress.
well, I agree with you.
But I think
I
it
do
was,
agree with that. I wouldn't do that there.
it's stated several times. I think it was backed up by polyfact.org. I think it's the name of the organ. I might be wrong, but I think that's the name of it. They said this health care proposal does not include covering for illegal immigrants.
It doesn't exclude them either. Now, here's the two questions. I agree with you.
It said there would be no federal funding for illegal immigrants, no federal funding for abortions.
That's what H.R. 3200 says. It says nothing about their status.
We can.
Speech delivered last night by the president. He was very clear. He's not going to cover illegal immigrants. He's not going to cover abortion. That's not 3,200.
Right.
To your point, it's not written down yet, but that's what he said. He said there's only 30 million uninsured American citizens.
He
took
backed out
out
the illegal
immigrants and had 5 million other people who are sort of in transition.
So
he took those out and
he
said,
exaggerated to begin with.
No.
Sure he did. He said 47. Now it's 30. Now it's magically 30.
The 47 had included the illegal immigrants. He's listened to people, and he said, we're not going to touch them. Now, the trouble I have with that statement from him is when I sat with Jim Himes and I listened to Jim Himes said the problem is our hospitals and our emergency rooms are clogged with these illegal immigrants who are still going to go and demand services. We're still going to have to pay for them, but they're not going to be part of the insurance program. So there's some issues, as the president said. There's a lot of work left to be done. Everybody sort of laughed in Congress when he said that because I heard what he said, but it's inconsistent with 3,200, and it's inconsistent with how do these guys, when they go to the emergency room, what happens? Do you ask them, are you an American citizen? Do you turn them away?
And they say no, and you
the
say,
president's
okay,
not clear how he's going to handle the illegal immigrants.
I don't see that happening.
You know, I think a little bit, the analogy I heard is trying to nail Jell-O onto a wall. You know, when you get down to some of the specifics of this plan, the opposite side will say, hey, wait a minute, what are you talking about? It's a work in progress. It's in transition. We don't really say that. Where does it say that? Are we going to do it? And then it's like trying to, you know, shadow box a ghost. I think the visceral reaction people are having to this whole thing is they're finally saying enough is enough. You know, we spent all this money, we have these stimulus packages where we got boondoggles from sea to sea going on. People don't see the economy recovering. They don't have faith in the government. And essentially now they want to take over 1/6 of the economy in the form of taking over health care. They don't want it. You know, and the more they learn about any supposed specifics, the less excited they are about it.
Back to illegal immigrants again. I just want to touch back on illegal immigrants again, because I think it's somewhat important. I'm going to read this directly from an article here. A CNN review of the Congressional Research Service report found that health care legislation does address illegal immigrants. And a later state says the proposal clearly states that federal subsidies will only go to U.S. citizens and immigrants who are in the United States legally. So again, I mean, this is from.
All right.
Now, hang on. Well, let me finish.
Go ahead.
Now, this is something that CNN looked at because Joe Wilson stated that the Congressional Research Service report showed that health care proposals would include illegal aliens. So CNN looked at it, analyzed it, as well as a couple other organizations, and stated that no, it does not cover illegal immigrants.
Well, Chris, both take it.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to speak to the kind of the spirit of what's going on in Washington with respect to the issue. First of all, I think it's good that the president addressed the issue because at least he's attempting to address an important issue to the American people. Okay. The fact is, American people don't want to pay for medical services for illegal immigrants.
I don't think anybody does.
And if there are loopholes in this thing, then, you know, the influx of illegal immigrants into the country is going to triple. Okay.
Yeah. Caller, you're on the air.
Let me just finish.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Listen, I don't think the president's being untruthful when he says that we'll be paying medical care for illegal aliens. Because he's going to regularize these 30 million illegal aliens in the next piece of legislation, so he's truly not being untruthful. My point?
Is it a bit of a bait and switch? I see what you're saying. You could be on to him.
I'm on to him, man. That's the next piece on the agenda, to regularize these 30 million illegal aliens, most of them being from South and Central American.
So the plan is
I'm glad he stood up, the congressman, and called them out, because this president only lies when his lips are moving. Good evening.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Mondo.
Let me just finish my point here. Representative Heller, a Republican from Nevada, okay, he introduced an amendment that would use 2 established citizenship status verification systems to prevent illegal aliens from accessing H.R. 3200's proposed affordability credits and enroll in the public insurance option. In other words, he wanted to put in provisions that would enforce illegal aliens, you know, from that would exclude them. The amendment failed along the party line.
In fact, I think it was twice they did that. So the Congress is acting to include illegal aliens. That's why Joe.
So
that's
what I'm stating here is wrong. Is inaccurate.
No, it may not be inaccurate, but
again,
it may not be inaccurate.
I'll state it
the reason
again.
Why Joe jumped up was because they introduced that twice. It was voted down twice.
Well, but again, it says that the proposal clearly states that federal subsidies will only go to U.S. citizens and immigrants who are in the United States
legally. And again, they tried to codify that. They actually tried to put that in writing. It was shot down twice by the Democrats.
So when I talked to Congressman Murphy about this, or I talked to Congressman Himes about this, they said, no, we will not vote for something like this that will include
then they should vote in favor of those 2 amendments.
But they just stated that they would not vote for this. So you don't believe? So you believe they would do it? Congressman Murphy is a part of the committee.
Oh, he is?
Yes. I spoke to him about that at the...
So why did he vote against it?
Then why they vote against it?
Why did he vote against the amendment?
Good question. Why did he vote against it?
I would pose it towards him and find out. But there could be other reasons besides that. I don't think, I don't know much about that amendment, so I can't comment on it.
I think to Marty's point with respect to the Jello, I think, our Senator Joe Lieberman got it right earlier in August when he basically said, look, we passed a stimulus bill that we said unemployment wouldn't go above 7.5%, and now it's 9.6 or 7 on its way to 10. We got that wrong. The economy is not doing as well as they wanted, desired, or whatever. And his comment was simply, we cannot afford this now. We cannot afford to rush this now. Let it be a work in progress. Let people kick the tires. Let people work at it. Let people understand what's in there. One of the most amazing parts of the provision of 3200, which I think the President has sort of scrubbed, I don't think that's the working document anymore, I think his presentation is the working document, was that these plans wouldn't go into effect till 2013. What is the purpose of the rush if these things aren't going to have any impact for 4 years? Take the time and do it right, and get what will work, and get it written down so everybody gets a chance to look at it and think about it.
Let me throw this out at you then. People on my side of the aisle say, where's the Republicans' plan? You tell me specifically.
They were waving it last night.
Well, another
really
inappropriate thing to do in Congress. But
waving a plan?
You explain to
Providing an alternative. The last time Barack Obama met with the Republicans was April.
Hey, you're a host. Calm down.
I'm just saying.
I'm asking these guys a question here. Why don't you tell me specifically, give me like 3 things that are wrong with health care right now, and how would you fix it?
Tort reform would be great.
Okay.
Tort reform, you know, $30 billion is spent on insurance premiums. Defensive medicine is estimated to be hundreds of billions of dollars. I talked to a person today. Their wife had a pretty horrendous fall. She had, and she saw specialists for lungs and livers and stomachs and intestines and pretty much everything. They did 9 MRIs. 9. The reason being, every doctor wanted to make sure they weren't going to get sued.
Right.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. And when people say tort reform, they're not saying, look, you can't sue your doctor. What they're saying is, you can sue your doctor. You can recover your economic losses and damages. That's fair. But these outlandish pain and suffering payments, which are somewhat random, are killing the system. And people just don't know how to do it. So tort reform is a great place to start. It was nice to hear the President wanted to look at it.
Okay.
Caller, are you there? If you're there, ask your question, caller.
Yes.
Go ahead. Please, ask your question. We're all waiting with bated breath. Are you there?
Hello, hello.
All right.
All right. You know, tort reform, Howard Dean. Howard Dean's the head of the Democratic Party.
Used to be. Not
He's no
anymore.
longer
Used
is?
to be.
Okay, well, he said during a recent town hall meeting, former Democratic National Committee Chairman Howard Dean was caught on video sharing the dirty little secret of why tort reform was shunned from the health care bill for fear of, quote, angering the trial lawyers. What do you answer to that? That the Democratic Party is so in bed with the trial lawyers, they receive so many millions and millions and millions of dollars in campaign contributions that they don't dare touch the goose that's laying the golden eggs in the form of campaign contribution in the trial lawyers. And meanwhile, they play a significant part in the escalating cost of health care.
Well, I don't know where you got that quote from, so I can't respond.
Well, it's off the
It's on
internet.
video.
It must be true.
It's actually on
It's actually
on videotape.
They got it on videotape.
Well, hey.
For discussion purposes, let's specify that that's
what would be-
go ahead.
What would be your number 2 thing? We got tort reform. What else are we doing?
Let insurance
I would say they
companies
grant
compete across state lines. Some of these states, New Jersey is probably the most egregious, with all the mandates they pile on insurance companies. The cost of insurance is it's prohibitive. People can't afford it.
$200,000 for a female.
And the reality is, the insurance is meant to protect you from catastrophic events. It's not meant to cover your desire for a sex change operation.
Caller, on that note, you're on the air.
Yes, good to see Howard Dean on YouTube, Al. If you just plug in Howard Dean or Snake Under Rock, it's all the same.
All right, well, thank you. That's good to know. See there, Al?
Frank Monda, the Minister of Information.
You can find this information if you only look. You
I
might
will
even be able
look
to,
that up.
Yeah, look
I'll put
it
it
up.
on my little
Howard
iPhone
Dean.
here.
Yeah. Snake on the-
So that's the second one. And the third one I would give you is our third payer system is contributing to the costs going up.
Okay.
You're divorced. You don't even know what the bill is. I broke my toe 2 weeks ago. I thought there was nothing you could do for it. I called my primary care physician. They said, oh, you got to go to an orthopedist. I said, can they do anything? We go to the orthopedist. I go to the orthopedist. Before I see the orthopedist, he takes 3 x-rays of my toe. I see the orthopedist. He says, broken toe. There's nothing you do for it. What was the purpose? And the reason I went through that...
Was it the big toe, little toe? The big toe.
Big toe.
The pinky toe's the worst.
Very good question. The reason I went through that was I wasn't paying the bill, so I didn't care, but I did care. High deductible health savings account policies are saving private industry roughly 20% of the bill, because the patient sits there and says, even if the company has contributed the money to the account, which is all 90% of the cases, this is my money. I care about it. Am I really getting value for this? Do I really need it? And they don't go for a sniffle. They just, when they go to the doctor, they say, do you really need to do all these tests? And they won't pay for it.
You know,
savings for that.
A political analyst once said, you think health care is expensive now, wait till it's free. And it's really going to get expensive. I've been told we have to go to a break. I think we have an interview from a congressman, or we may have an interview from people that are in favor of universal socialized health care. But we are going to go to the videotape right now, and we'll get to all your calls. So let's go to the videotape.
All right, I'm here on the Danbury Green with Congressman Murphy. This is the second day you've been out here, and I know you've been around the 5th District talking to people. I saw you in Simsbury, which was somewhat interesting. And I just want to get your feelings about meeting the people and talking to the residents in the 5th District about health care.
You know, there are some members of Congress out there who are hiding, who don't want to be out here and talk to folks about health care. I've taken the exact opposite approach. This is my second day of spending 2 hours down here on the Danbury Town Green talking to anybody who wants to talk to me. I was at Waterbury Town Green on Tuesday. I'll be back there again on Friday. Last night we did 2 hours up at Chippewa High School. I am losing my voice if you can hear it, but this is the job. I mean, I don't vote how Chris Murphy says that I should vote. I vote how my constituents want me to vote. There's a lot of passion on both sides of this debate. A lot of people that are concerned that they would lose their insurance that they have now. My job is to try to tell them that that's not in the plan, that our intention is if you want insurance to keep it. A lot of people out there who don't understand how insurance companies have gotten away with what they've gotten away with and really want health care reform because they think that it's going to start to rein in some of the worst abuses of the insurance industry. My job is to tell people that that really is my mission when I go back down to Washington to try to push for that kind of insurance reform. There's a lot of great input, a lot of great ideas that I'm getting out here, and I don't know how to do my job any other way.
All right. Now, I've been, like I said, I've been to a few of these meetings with you, and I hear a lot of weird things like death panels and people are going to be forced into public option. It's going to create a single-payer system. How do you handle the misinformation that's being levied out there and being directed towards congressmen like you?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you know, we heard today and yesterday, you know, people believing that the Weather Underground is writing the health care bill. And, you know, I think somebody asked a very good question at the end of the conversation today. How do you get your information and make sure that it's right? And I said one of the first things I do is I don't pay attention to anybody who's on the cable news shows from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Those people are entertainers. They're not healthcare experts. They have an agenda. And if you hear anything on those news shows, and, you know, frankly, whether it's MSNBC or Fox News, you got to go and verify it. You got to go and make sure that that isn't just somebody spinning a rumor to spin a rumor, because a lot of what I'm hearing just isn't in the bill. And I'm hopeful that people will call our office. If they have a concern or rumor that they've heard, call us and we'll walk people through this bill or whatever new draft comes out to talk about what's real and what's not.
Okay. One last question real quick. As a progressive, I know that, you know, the Democratic residents have made it so that the Democrats have control of Congress, and now we have a Democratic president. A lot of people voted members of Congress in because they want health care reform, they want a public option. So my question to you is, how do you feel about the public option, and would you vote for a health care bill that would not have a public option in it?
You know, I haven't set any lines in the sand for things I agree with or don't agree with on the health care bill, but I don't see any other way to try to rein in insurance costs without the public option. I'm a big supporter of it because I believe, one, that people should have the choice to be on public insurance or private insurance, depending on what's best for them. But I also agree with the Congressional Budget Office, the nonpartisan analysts in Washington that have said that the public option will save the healthcare system $100 billion, because it will provide pressure on the private for-profit insurers to bring their costs down and their premiums down. So I'm a big supporter of the public option because I think that people should have a choice. This is a nation of individual responsibility and individual choice, and I think that they should make that decision themselves, and that I think that the public option can really do a great job of bringing down the cost of health care.
Well, thanks a lot for being here. I don't recall Nancy Johnson being out here with these type of events like this, and she was voting for health care. So from somebody who lives in the Fifth, I really appreciate it.
Every one of these I schedule for an hour, and it goes 2 hours. I schedule it for an hour and a half, it goes 3 hours. I'm going to stick around until everybody's questions answered.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Great.
Well, there you go. That's Al Robinson, the Intrepid reporter, getting an interview with Congressman Murphy talking about health care. We have a caller on the line, Kitty, who is obsessed with Derek Jeter. Well, we're not going to hold that against her. But, Kitty, what are your thoughts on the health care?
Well, you know, I went, and Al was there, to one of the town meetings with Chris Murphy. And what I didn't like, really, was the portrayal the next day in the News-Times. You know, they talk about Republicans being angry. Well, I talked to a lot of the people there, and there were Republicans, there were Democrats, there were independents. And, you know, we're not mad. We're afraid. I'm 66 years old. I've had breast cancer. I've had a heart attack. And I want to know that my coverage is going to be there. And one of the questions asked to Mr. Murphy was, why don't you and Congress sign on to this health care program?
Right.
And Mr. Murphy said, oh, that's a great idea. Well, tell me something. How many people, how many of the 535 senators and congressmen do you think are going to sign up for this health care program?
Wow. Kitty, thank you very much. I really appreciate the call. Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up to that. Congressman Murphy said he supports that idea. He thought it was a great idea. In fact, he came out with a press release either that day or the day after saying that, hey, members of Congress should be allowed to sign on to this plan. Because of law right now, Congress people cannot do that. It's because of some type of law. I can't give you specifics right now, but that's why.
Caller, are you there? Okay, you're on the air. Caller, are you there? Get him back if you can. I liked what that lady had to say.
Absolutely.
Because this is the thought, really, Al. Follow me on this. Because I got a little bit from the president last night, too. And the idea is, don't you people get it? We're going to help all you people. Just trust us. Just give us all your money. Let's throw another 8% tax on top of everyone's payroll, and just give us some money, and we're going to take care of you. And anyone who's against us is some sort of whack job Republican is bust into these town halls and is uncivilized. That's exactly what this lady said.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case.
This lady called this show.
No.
Wait, let me finish. This lady called this show, and she said they got it wrong. They were Republicans. They were Democrats.
Absolutely.
They were independents. This is a 60-year-old lady who likes Derek Jeter. She seems to be a cross-section of America, and she's saying she's afraid. Now, the Democrats can say, oh, no, they're not. Oh, that's just Fox News. That's just people getting upset. But it isn't. I'm telling you, this is visceral reaction.
That's not exactly accurate. In fact, what
she said wasn't accurate?
No, what you're saying is a little inaccurate. What she is correct in saying that the News Times article was a little wrong. They said like 50 people. There was a lot more people. It wasn't an angry mob scene that was there. There's a lot of concerned citizens on both sides of the aisle asking meaningful, thoughtful questions. In fact, I have it all on videotape. But what we do have, and what I went to earlier on in August in some of these other town meetings, was just absolutely insane. I saw a guy who was talking about...
Caller, you're on the air. Are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to know that we could probably reduce costs by allowing insurance companies or buyers of insurance to purchase over interstate lines. Right now, you cannot go out of state, I understand, and I believe that bringing that competition in would further reduce costs.
Do it like they do with Geico, car insurance. Competition is a beautiful thing. Ask Warren Buffett. Excellent point. Caller, you there? Are you there?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi.
Please, ask your question.
I hate to burst the bubble of your friend sitting on your left side, but Murphy's a and the reason he's a phony is that he held these meetings when people are at work or going to work.
All right, is that your thought? All right, thanks a lot. Murphy's a phony because he held these meetings when people were going to work.
I guess he held 2 in Danbury, he held 1 in Waterbury, he had 1 in Simsbury, he had 1. I don't know.
So you said he was pretty open to what
he held a lot more than I remember Nancy Johnson holding when she was doing the Husky plan. So, but go ahead.
Dissent before Obama came into office used to be the highest form of patriotism. All of a sudden, it's fallen into disrepute. Now that it's Republicans.
When you're walking in with guns, when you're walking in with Nazi symbols and socialist images and stuff like that.
I'm going to recite the rhetoric from our political leaders, okay, the Democrats. The White House accused people like me who were going to these town halls of fear-mongering. But as the woman said, we are afraid, okay? We're expressing that fear, legitimately so, okay? You should be afraid too, okay? Senators Pelosi and Hoyer, we are un-American. Senator Harry Reid, we're evil-mongers. Dick Durbin accuses us of being pawns of the insurance industry. I'm not a pawn of the insurance industry.
Saying everybody who's opposed to the health care proposal.
Representative Brian Baird, Democrat of Washington, accused us of being brown shirts in reference to, Nazis.
So you're saying that some of these people who are not out there, the images of people with guns on TV, putting, showing Obama as a Hitler, socialist, those people aren't white jobs?
Okay.
Well, the people from the person from the Harvard Tea Party,
400 town halls, okay?
Right.
10 incidents of violence.
That's it.
Okay? 7 of them perpetrated by liberals. Okay?
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yes.
And plus, it's
you want those facts?
in Arizona.
Email it to me. But the guy from the Harvard Tea Party who said Chris Dodd should commit suicide.
No,
that
we don't
individual
agree with that.
right there.
We don't agree. Yeah, right.
Well, his information was readily available at the healthcare forum
We'd like
in
him to
Ridgefield.
step down as senator because he's corrupt, is what
But I'm
we'd
just
like
saying,
him
the
to
guy
do.
who made that offensive, crazy remark, his material is readily available at the Ridgefield forum.
Okay,
You know,
Al, let me just, because you shared with me your experience.
I'm talking about a guy at a town hall. I'm talking about our political leaders using this type of rhetoric against people like me who are concerned about the continuation of our private health care, sir. There is a huge difference.
The people like you are fair, and we want to hear people like you. What we don't want to hear is the people on the fringe who we see on TV all the time.
Well, are these guys fringe?
They are.
Are these
they
people
are
I'm on TV. I'm going nuts.
I don't know where this quote came from. I like to see the whole.
Harry Reid,
I want to see it in its full context. Hey, I work on the blogs. I know this stuff.
Okay.
I want to see the full context.
Gerald Nadler called us fascists, okay?
Hold on that fascist thought. Hold on.
Everybody's against
Caller, are you there?
Yeah.
Did anyone put you up to making this call?
I'd like to make a comment.
Please.
One part of the conversation here, you were asking Chris Murphy if he'd like to buy into what we had. When Obama was running for president, and part of his running speech was he would like to have all the American people offered what they have in Congress. Now, all of a sudden, the flip side's turning, and I don't believe any one of them in Congress would want to have the insurance that they're offering us.
Just out of curiosity, did a Republican operative force you to make this call? Caller, are you there? They must have pulled. Must have been a dreaded Republican holding the phone.
At least the phones are halfway working.
Yeah, see, call, you there? Yeah, I mean these are voices of America. You might not like what they're saying.
I didn't say
but
that.
But for you,
I didn't say that.
Then
and you're directing a lot at me when we have 3 guests here.
Okay, well they're the ones making the But the Democratic Party and look, the president, I underlined it. He said during this time Washington at its best and at its worst. Oh my God, where's my glasses? He says. But we've also seen in the last month in the same partisan spectacle that only hardened and disdained many Americans towards their own government. Instead of honest debates, we've seen scare tactics. Some have dug into unyielding ideological camps that offer no hope for compromise. Confusion has reigned. In other words, if anyone deigns to question that the president's universal health care program is just the most wonderful thing that's dropped down from heaven, all of a sudden we're spreading confusion and using scare tactics. Well, it's the president of the United States saying this.
That's not true. What we're saying is a lot of misinformation that's being directed out there, a lot of misinformation about this stuff that is inaccurate. So, speaking of that, let's just...
Hold on one second. Caller, are you there?
How are you tonight?
Good. Have you been put up to this call by a political operative of any kind?
Oh, no, I'm in the middle. I'm an independent, so I don't have many horses in the race this year.
Okay, well...
But I have a question for you folks at the round table. Who do you think is a better hitter? Derek Jeter or Lou Gehrig? And great show. Thank you.
Derek Jeter or Lou Gehrig? Let's spend 10 seconds
two different
on that.
eras.
What are your thoughts?
It's two different eras. It's two different major teams.
And didn't Lou Gehrig have Babe Ruth to protect him too? Or,
well, yeah,
or was
Babe
it the other way
Ruth.
around?
You had fewer teams back during that time period,
That's
and
true.
you know, I mean, there wasn't that many teams.
The season was shorter.
Yeah,
season was shorter.
I think that's true. Got to go with Lou.
This season he didn't get as many at bats.
Derek Jeter is a very handsome man, though. Can we all agree on that? We have just taken a turn here. We got to get back to politics.
Whoa.
Okay. What are your thoughts? You're making some point.
No, I just want to get these guys into play. First of all, why don't you give a quick plug to your site? I want to make sure that people know your website.
Citizens.care.org and obviously the RidfieldGOP.org, where the Ridgefield Review is online. And
so people can get a copy of that, of the paper online as well as in a PDF format?
Yes.
Or, okay, yes. So, and if you have any email, I just want to give you any plugs you want to do out here.
Go to www.ridfieldgop.org, or it's editor@ridfieldgop.org, and you can speak to me.
And the website on Ridgefield.org.
Do you have any events coming up anytime soon?
Well, we're headed to Washington on Saturday, Mike and I, and we hope there's a lot of people on the mall protesting this administration.
Now, if anybody wants to go down to D.C. with you, just get your contact info. Or
well, you can go to cttparty.org and try to get on a bus, but I think they're all filled.
They're all filled up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I just want to make sure. Get it out there for you guys.
Call, you're on the air.
Yes, this is Obama. And I really would have.
President Obama, what are your thoughts?
I really would have preferred to just tell the entire nation that we were going to put everyone on the health care plan that we have here, right here in Congress and in Washington. But at the last minute, Nancy pulled me aside and said, no. So I apologize to the viewers. I did have a plan, and unfortunately, I was told by
President Obama, could you please settle this for us? Lou Gehrig or Derek Jeter?
I'll take Lou Gehrig.
There you go. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
How do you feel about people who have pre-existing conditions who cannot get health care? I went to the health care rally that was done at the public library. A lot of people who I talked to there who gave first-hand accounts of, look, I have a pre-existing condition. Because of that, I cannot get health care coverage, or it was just astronomically high. And it seems like it's absolutely unfair that I have to deal with that.
Like a convoluted answer. The president last night said, we will penalize, we will tax, we will force those 25-year-olds who don't have insurance now to get it. We need them in the pool to pay for those people with pre-existing conditions.
Well, what would be your
There's something wrong with that logic.
What would be your answer to it then?
I think the answer is if you have a pre-existing condition, you should be able to get insurance, but it's going to be a high-cost policy because you have high-cost medical needs. And to ask that 25-year-old who doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of money anyway to pay your bill is somewhat immoral.
On that note, because there's been a lot of morality thrown around. Of all people, Ted Kennedy's lecturing us on morality from the letter, which is the president. Mike, I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Chris, Murray, thank you as well. Keith, very good. And Al, it's been a lively discussion. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Join us next week when we're probably going to talk about Bethel again because it's just so gallbang fascinating. And then we're also going to have Dan DiVasella, who will unseat Congressman Hines, who's in favor of all this health care stuff. But thanks a lot. Join us next week on Ideas at Work and Beyond. Same bad time, same bad station. We'll see you next week. Thanks for calling.